Hello, lovelies. Welcome to another episode. I am so excited for today's guest. Her name is Tavia Sharp, and we're talking about personal image and branding. We focus on the personal side of things more, and we talk about why it's important to have an image that's really reflective of who we are in how to go about creating shifts and the impact that this shift creates, both personally and professionally. And so we cover this topic from the different times and reasons why people might want to create a shift, what's happening for them, and how they're feeling like they need a change, and then how to go about the change, and then what kind of results you get from creating such a shift. A lot of times, what happens is that we might not have evolved our look with who we have become. So we might be stuck in the look on our appearance, or we might be dated on one hand. On the other hand, we might experience that we haven't kept up with the maintenance of ourselves, or our look, or our grooming, our appearance, or whatever we want to call it. And we're not looking put together. We're looking a little shabby, a little frumpy, a little grody. And so we kind of need to shake things up a little bit. And so those are two reasons that might feel that we need to kind of step up our game so that we could be more reflexive of our status, where we are, who we are, and what's going on for us. But also, we might want to create a shift. We might be totally content with our look, our appearance, how we've done, how we've evolved, and all those things. But maybe it's not enough or good enough, or we feel it's not reflective enough of where we want to be, who we're becoming, or where we're going, right? And so we might need an up level for that reason, or for both reasons, right? So both things could be true. And so we cover this so that we identify the reasons, and we offer ideas and suggestions for doing some minor tweaks so you can start creating those things during the holidays. So you can start owning your new identity, your new look, your new mojo sooner than later, and right away. You could create changes immediately if you want to. And then also so that you can start the new year right. So you can start thinking about, what other changes do I want to make? How far do I want to take this? How do I really own who I feel I am and who I'm additionally becoming, so that I could create the shifts in my life that I'm looking for, in my relationship, in my personal life, in all the different places, and professionally, so we get all the results and all the manifestations and all the yumminess that we're looking for. Because the way that we look, the way that we show up, definitely has an impact, and then it affects the results that we get. And so we talk about all of that. It's an amazing, fun conversation. So I hope that you enjoy it. And I'm going to read her bio, and then we'll say hello to Tavia. Stay tuned. You're in for a treat. Tavia Sharp is an executive image consultant, personal branding expert, and speaker with over 20 years of fashion industry experience, designing for some of the top brands like Calvin Klein, Nautica, and Macy's. Her designs have even been featured on celebs like Drake, Neo, Chrissy Teigen, and Emma Roberts in magazines like GQ and Sports Illustrated. After years working behind the scenes, Tavia discovered her true calling to help ambitious entrepreneurs and executives discover the secret weapon and upgrade their online and offline image so that they can take their business and brand to the next level. From individualized consulting and styling services to seminars and workshops, Tavia brings her A game to help clients solidify their personal and professional image to stand out, make an impact, and magnetize premium opportunities. Hi, Tavia. So good to have you. How are you today?
I'm doing great. So excited to be here.
I am super excited for this topic as we wrap up the holidays and they start thinking about the new year. Some people might have started doing that, right? Especially planning the gifting and receiving the gifts and all that kind of stuff. So they might already be in that mindset. But in case whoever's listening, if they haven't thought about this yet, you still have a chance to set yourself up to have an amazing new year. The conversation is going to be from any period when you listen to this to starting a refresh, whether it's the new year or any time that you listen to this and you want to start something fresh, we're going to hook you up, right?
Yes.
That's the idea. That's what we're going to do. So why don't you tell us a little bit about, in a nutshell, like a couple of sentences, like what your focus is with your clients, like what do you do exactly with image, with personal branding? It's
Mhm.
a little professional branding as well, but we're focusing on the personal. So just
Mhm.
a little bit so that the audience knows, and then we'll jump into how do we tailor this and apply this to the relationship and to people's love lives.
Oh, this is great. So I work with both professional men and women, and I help them sharpen their style, their visibility, and their online and offline brand. So really, it's about building a personal brand that becomes recognizable, not
Mm.
only to when we're out and about in person, but also our online brand and how people perceive us on the internet.
Yes, very nice. I love that. And so this is interesting, right? Because yeah, we think, and usually when we think brand, we think, business, professional appearances on like billboards, kind of thing. But our image, we have an image, period, right? When I go to the gym, I have a look. Like I look different from everybody else. And when I go to the supermarket, I have a look. And when I stand here on camera, I have a look. Like I have a personal Emma look, right?
Mhm.
And yeah, so we have an image, we have a brand, and it's so good to hone in on this in terms of how it impacts our relationships. I'm just so curious to have your take on this. So,
Yeah.
anything about that to get us started?
Mm. Yeah, because the way we show up is the way that we think about ourselves.
Hmm.
So when we are leaving our house or we're showing up on Zoom or we're putting out a piece of content that represents us, it's it's an extension of who we are. So it's from the way you dress to the way you speak to
Hmm.
the way you communicate yourself to the videos and pictures that you put online. All of it is part of your brand, not just one thing. It's all of
Right.
it. And I call that the ABCDs. So it's
Oh,
your appearance, your behavior, your communication, and your digital presence. So ABCDs of your image. And that's what I work on with people, not just one thing, but all of that, because they all work together to create who you are and how you present yourself to the world.
how people, like all the different ways that people could take you in. Say that
Yes.
again. So, appearance,
Mhm.
behavior,
Yep. Communication,
communication, and digital.
digital.
I love it. And how does that relate to relationships, to in our
Mhm.
personal life?
Yeah, and it can be professional too, but if we're focused on personal, it's also like how you show up as a way that you respect yourself, but also the person that you're with. So it's interesting because I know you and I talked about this a little bit offline, but I actually mostly have male clients. So majority of my clients are men. And many, many times, yes, they come to me for help because they want to show up in a more powerful way. And they
Mm.
want to show up as a leader and they want to show up in their business, right? But often, once we start working together, they share with me, well, I really want to attract the right partner. Or if I'm in a relationship, I want to show up as attractive. And, I want my partner to see me that way and to
Hmm.
perceive me as somebody who shows up for them. And so that's interesting. And then, as you and I talked about, I have a lot of women who reach out to me and say, I'd love for you to help my husband because I want them to show up as in a more presentable way. But I think there's a lot going on underneath of that
Mhm.
because obviously they're not the ones who want to do it, right? They want to hire a professional and
Right.
also they want their partners. Maybe it's a long period of time. Most of the people that hire me, they've been together for quite some time. It's not a new relationship, and maybe there's some of the traction that fades, or they're thinking, "Well, why is this person not really showing up, for me anymore? I take the time to get dressed. I take the time to put myself together and make myself, attractive for my partner, but are men doing it?" And that's an interesting thought.
That is interesting. And so obviously there's a certain type of woman who will reach out and
Oh, yeah.
request this kind of service.
Mhm.
And I would imagine that they already are put together for them to request that of their husband. Like I can't
Yeah.
imagine a frumpy woman coming over and say, like, can you style my husband? Like it doesn't make sense, right?
Yes.
And so that's interesting. So something to keep in
Mhm.
mind.
Yep.
But so they're thinking that the partner's not showing up. And even for
Mhm.
themselves, when you do work with women for themselves, not for their husbands, like
Mhm.
whoever the client is, husband or wife or whatever, what is it that they need to be showing up with? Like, what is part of that image that you're playing with them to help them show up better?
Yeah, just to be a little bit, like, leveled up, like, instead of wearing just frumpy, baggy clothes that look like you don't care, to transforming them into putting on things that actually make them, like, feel better, number 1, and also just look more presentable, because I do think a lot of people get complacent. I think that's a good word. We get
Yes.
complacent. I myself struggle with this sometimes too, especially
Mm,
because when I'm not feeling great or, just something's going on in your life, you tend to kind of get like into a complacent place. And a lot of times that happens in the way that you dress and the way you show up because you want to be comfortable. You
yes.
feel like I just want to kind of take a step back. I don't want to, put myself out there and feel like, I'm being too bold or, it's almost
Mm,
like you want to hide, right? And that does show up in the way we dress. And I do think in relationships sometimes, right? We're just like, oh, well, why does it matter? You've been with that person for a while and you start to just get lazy about it. Let's just put it out there because that's what happens. And I do think people take that as a sign like, why are you not showing up for me?
hmm. You know what's really interesting? I could imagine that they have this happens more for people who are in front of the camera more
Mhm. Mhm.
and who are working from home more, who are more isolated. I mean, I could totally relate to this, right? If I wasn't recording, let me tell you, it could get pretty lazy up in here, right? And
Mm.
so, and even like choosing outfits, it's like okay, like I'm not going into an office 5 days a
Mhm.
week. Like I'm
Mhm.
not going to all of these places. Like how much effort
Yes.
do I put into my wardrobe?
Right.
And into high heels. I used to wear like the highest heels and like all these
Mhm.
fancy shoes. And it's like, okay, I have a bunch of them, but like I could barely wear them. I barely
Yes.
have the opportunity to wear them nowadays. And it's like,
Right.
okay, that's interesting. So how do I tailor my my appearance or my style or my closet to match a different lifestyle? So
Right.
that's true, you know. So any thoughts about that?
Yeah, definitely. That has come into play
Hmm.
quite a bit post, pandemic, right? Now it's been 4 years and people are
Yeah.
settled into their new lifestyle, which
Yep.
most of the time, my clients at least are really having a challenge because it's like every day is different.
Right. That's
Before
true.
they used to go to an office 5 days a week. And now people are like, well, sometimes I go to the office or I'm traveling for work or I have meetings on Zoom and then I have
Right.
this event with my wife. It's like this constantly, there's something
Mm,
different every day. And I actually think that throws people off. And so what happens is they do get lazy because they're like, oh, I just don't want to think about all that. That's a lot of decisions to make. And
that's
most
like 5 wardrobes.
Oh my gosh, it's
That's so
to
much
think
work.
about. So they
Yeah.
either get lazy and don't do anything and become complacent and like, who cares? Nobody cares anyway. Or they say, no, it actually does matter. And I need to hire somebody to help me because I don't think I can do this on my own. It's just too much to deal with.
Yeah. I mean, I
Yes.
could imagine that the go-to would be like, okay, let me just middle of the ground and I just do that for all of the things. And then you're not really showing up with
Mhm.
your best look or
Exactly.
your best image because it might be too toned down for certain things and maybe a little too much for just being at home. Then you're
Yes.
not comfortable. So like, I don't know, it's like just funky stuff there.
Hmm.
Yeah, I hear all of that. Now, are there specific life milestones or transition times or all there specific times when people get thrown off or where they find that they coming out of that or in being in influx or in the middle of that, that they
Yes.
struggle most with this with their image when they
Hmm.
need more of a pick me up or a refresh.
Yeah, absolutely. It's usually is transition times.
Mhm,
New job, new
mhm.
role, new relationship, divorce. I lost weight. I don't fit in my clothes. That's a big one. Maybe, there's like a lot of people are taking, some fat loss medication, right? And that
Mm.
be very rapid. So it is these transition times. Or a lot of times it may be like, I want to find my partner, right? Or I want to find that dream job or level up in my business. So it typically is they just happen to go through a transition or they want to make a change. So I
Right.
get a
Good.
little bit of all of that,
Sure.
basically.
Yeah, that makes absolute sense. And so that when as you were describing those things, I'm hearing the work with men.
Mhm.
When you have the women, are there additional times when this happens?
Yeah, it typically is new job, new role. Yeah, or business. Like I have a lot of clients that are entrepreneurs who want to start getting more speaking engagements
Oh,
or
yeah.
want to
Mhm.
start putting themselves out there, right? They want to get more attention for their business. And they know that one thing that may be holding them back is their image, right? And that actually impacts your confidence as well. So if you're not feeling confident in yourself, this is one way that you absolutely with, like, out a doubt, us working together, the next day, you will feel confident because you're gonna start to see the shift, right? And showing up differently is a really one of the fastest ways to do that. I talk about this a lot because it
Lovely.
impacts your, emotional state. So there is something called enclothed cognition. This is a real thing, you can look it up, and it basically is, the psychological state of dressing, in a way that makes you feel different. So if you
Love it.
dress in a way that shifts your mood and your mindset, then of course you're going to show up in a more powerful way. Mhm.
So good. You know what's really interesting? I'm also thinking of women going through postpartum and going
Mhm.
back to work,
Yes.
right? And they're feeling all wobbly because they've been out of work for a while, or they're
Mhm.
just not feeling comfortable in their bodies and in their it affects their relationship, work, like all the different things, if not feeling confident. So that's
Yes.
also probably a good time, I would
Oh,
imagine.
absolutely. And that is definitely a one. And then another one that I'm dealing with right now, and I'm, because even myself is perimenopause and menopause. We're going through a transition in life that is unavoidable, and our
Mhm.
bodies feel different and we shift and change. And so we start to go, oh, why do I have this extra 10 pounds? And maybe it's in an area.
Why are certain body parts look in a certain way?
Yeah, exactly. Mm, what do I wear? Because the things that I wore before, they look good before, or maybe you felt like they did, and then now you're like, "Ugh, not so comfortable to show that part of your body," right?
Mm.
So that's another big transition. Mhm.
Yeah, or the clothes just don't fit the same
Oh, they
way.
don't fit
So
the same way.
yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
absolutely. Mhm.
Yeah, total that's great. That's a great example. And so when people are not feeling confident and they're thinking about what the heck do I do? And this is before they even get to making a choice about like I need help, right? So
Right.
they're struggling a little bit and then they're just thinking of different ways. What are some things that they could think about that could help them make a decision like this to get support or that they could start doing stuff that they could start doing for themselves before they take the big leap if they're not ready?
Oh my gosh. So many things. I mean, one thing I always say to people is like, "Why don't you just go on Pinterest and
Mm,
find some inspiration?" It's like creating like a vision board for yourself. When like you're
yes.
ready to make a change in life or you just want something different, right? A lot of times, even when we're doing that, like at start of the new year, we might create vision boards.
Mhm.
Or it's just one thing you could do. Then you could do a vision board for your own image. Like you can just hone it in, either do it by hand or just go on Pinterest and find images that make you feel like, yeah, that's the next level version of myself. Yes, like that makes me get excited. Pay attention to the signs in your body. Do you feel like excited? Do you get goosebumps? Like, do you feel that like little like thing which just feels like a tingle? Like what is it that you're like, yeah, that's it, right? And put those
Mhm.
images on a board. I mean, that's like one thing you could do for sure. Another thing is to, like some people like they actually need to put things on. So like go to a store that you've always wanted to buy something from and you just didn't give yourself permission to do it, just go
Hmm.
to the store and try it on. Nobody said that trying on means you have to buy it. So just go, put that thing on and see how you feel. Does it shift
Oh,
your
that's
mood? Does it
good.
shift your mindset? How do you feel in it? Do you get to like embody this other version of you that you're like, oh, well, yeah, this feels like me, but you just didn't do it before. And that's like a whole thing you could do. I mean, I could give you more, but I think
So
there's a,
that feels a little advanced. So let's pin that for a second. Let's backtrack.
yeah,
So if because I could just hear the people listening and they're like, well, everything that I try on is gonna look like crap, or like I don't have the body for it, or like I don't know what to
yeah,
get. I don't even know what I like. You know what I mean? Like
right,
we're not there yet. The new me, I don't know who the new me is, you know?
right.
So let's make our way there. So maybe we could
Mhm.
help our listeners along. So the first thing that's coming to mind to ask you is how might it show up that complacency in the relationship, let's say? Like what might be some of the feelings, what might be some of the behaviors, or what are some of the things that people tell you that they're going through that they know that they're like, you know?
Yeah. A lot of people just say like, "Oh, I just feel kind of blah. I don't like how things look on me." And this is for men and women. I get this actually very similar
Oh,
things.
sure,
They just
right.
express it differently, but most of the time they say,
Mm.
"Nothing fits me," or I'm just so tired of like what's in my closet. It just doesn't like feel good anymore. I want to throw everything away and start over.
Yep.
If wives are reaching out to me, a lot of times, for their husbands, they'll say, I just he just looks sloppy and he's not putting in an
Mm.
effort into what he wears. And typically the man is like, "Well, I don't really see what the problem is." But but it obviously is if not just one wife has reached out to me, but many, like a
Mhm.
lot, then
Interesting.
obviously this is a common thing because to them, they're probably thinking, "Why isn't he putting in more effort?" Because the way
But that's weird language, right? So as I put in my therapist hat on,
yeah.
so
Mhm.
guys don't measure effort that way. Like that's not gonna what they're gonna worry about
Uh-huh.
usually. So
Yep.
it makes sense what you're saying.
Yes.
And that's weird that the women are calling that effort, right? And
Mhm.
that I mean, appearance makes sense that it's important. So that's why attraction happens and the
Yes.
grooming. I mean, who knows what else, I'm sure that all the things go along with looking sloppy.
Yes.
So so it's interesting
Yeah.
that these women are calling it effort or
Yes,
investing
I
in
hear
looking
that.
better, investing
Yeah,
in
I
looking
hear
better,
that. Like,
probably.
why
Yep.
doesn't he put more effort into how he looks? Doesn't he see how, like, it looks sloppy or it looks lazy or, like, he doesn't
Mhm.
care about
Right.
the way he presents himself? And I do think women probably do take it personally, right? Like, okay, you're not really showing up and I'm doing all these things. Like, I'm getting my hair done every week. I'm doing my nails. I'm getting dressed up. I'm putting on makeup. I'm not saying they have to do it every day, but I
Yeah. Yeah.
do think there's maybe a little bit of that comparison. Like, well, why do I feel like I have to like do all these things to, keep up appearances and then you're not really doing anything? And that,
Hmm.
or only when we have an event, right? They don't even show up for date night, like dressed up. Oh, I put on this nice dress and he just wore like his
Right.
same old polo shirt and baggy jeans, sneakers,
Hmm.
There's something about that that
Right.
they feel that effort isn't being done. So that's why I do hear that word, which is why I used it. Mhm.
Yeah. 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 Totally. I totally hear that. And I like converting that into showing up
Mhm.
because I'm wondering if the effort in their appearance is not being put in, right? It makes sense that they also probably feel that the partner's not showing up in other ways.
Oh, yeah.
But that's the concrete way that's what they could put their finger on, but they can't talk about the dynamics or the emotional or some other ways in which the partner might not be showing up. But let me change how you look. So it feels like you're showing up for me. But right. So I'm hearing a bunch of other things going on there, like how partners show up or don't show up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you get any of that by any chance? Like what other ways they might not show up or how they're feeling?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely see it sometimes, because some of these these partnerships, I do see the dynamic, right?
Right.
And I'm just kind of not getting into that part because,
Right.
that's
Oh,
not
yeah, yes.
what I'm there for, but I do see it sometimes and then like what they kind of pick at or what they're saying and then I'm like, this is interesting because there's probably more going on, but they don't usually say it too much to me. It is more
Yeah.
like the surface stuff. But I definitely agree with you. I think that there's probably more going on there and they're just able to pinpoint the way you
That's the
dress.
practical. You can put your hands on that.
Yeah,
That you could measure, right? You could see it.
yes,
It's
exactly.
easier.
You're upset.
Especially if the women are caring a lot about appearances and they're looking great. So that's the one way that they could measure it and create a shift
Yes.
without going too much deeper or putting too much more effort in the relationship potentially. I don't know.
Yeah.
But so when they start making that shift, maybe I'm getting too ahead of myself. Hang on, let me see. How do I ask? What's the next thing that I want to ask you? Like, how does the investing in the appearance shift the showing up or shift the dynamics? Or how have you seen how they interact differently, or what else happens to their confidence you mentioned earlier? Like what else are some of the things that come up?
Yes, absolutely. Usually the wife will thank me. It's like ridiculous. Like they're like, "Oh my god, this is like night and day." Because
Mm,
you're right, they can see it. It's a tangible thing. They can see the difference, the before and the after, right? Which is we all love those before and afters.
yes, yes, for
Right,
sure.
and everybody does. And so I think that they do see the difference, and there even sparks attraction again, which is, right, that happens.
Yes.
But in the person specifically, typically what happens is they feel, like, more confident, they feel, like, more excited, they feel happier,
Mm,
they get more attention, which that in turn reinforces that, "Oh,
right.
wow, this was a good decision," because,
Mhm.
"Oh, look at all the compliments I'm getting, people saying things to me," right? People always say this, and I say, "Well, that's great because that's positive reinforcement," right? That you
Mhm.
did this and it made a shift. So that kinda continues like a little bit of a snowball effect, so they're like,
Lovely.
got a pep in their step. They act differently. They feel more bold. They're excited about this new look, and that's when they really should continue to keep it up because that can also fade over time if you're not
Right.
continuing that momentum. But for sure, they definitely feel internally a shift, and a lot of times that is the thing that was missing to take them from where they were to where they want to go with their goals. A lot
Hey,
of
let's
times,
come back to that. Let's come back to that. Hang on one second. That's beautiful. So I
okay,
could imagine that they also feel more alive, more
yeah.
like themselves, like
For
more in
themselves.
alignment, more who they are, as opposed to like, right?
Absolutely. Mhm.
Yes. And so that's going to radiate. It's not just the new jacket or the new color. Like that energy is going to be different. That's going to be attractive. It's not just the look,
Yes.
right? The energy is
Yes.
different. That's
Absolutely.
beautiful.
I always say magnetic. You become
Right.
very magnetic when you basically put on I call it putting on your power. It's like put on your
Mm,
power and then that shifts it and then you become this more magnetic person
so
because your internal state and your energy shifts and that is what's attractive to people around you. Mhm.
right.
Mhm.
Excellent. Very, very nice. So, do you have a concrete examples or details on how that magnetism manifests? Like
Yes.
what does it turn into? And also, if you could bring it back to the relationship, you said that's more attraction. Like what else?
Yes. So, I mean, I could give a lot of examples. Let me see. I have an example of one of my clients who we did this with, and we totally gave him a, image makeover. He
Mm,
started wearing, these new looks, and he said, "Oh my God, like you have no idea what has happened to me in this past week. I've had
mm.
doors being held open for me, people giving me like first treatment, like, for parking, like, he's like, I even got somebody that came up and said, "Hey, do you wanna be on this, like, board, where you make basically you're a decision maker." And then on top of that, I also, he was looking for a partner, and so I gave him a little, just like a little thing to do around manifesting, a partner. A little
Nice.
exercise, I'll call it an exercise. And he did that exercise and he said, "Oh my gosh, Tavia, I did this exercise literally within, I think it was just a couple months." He met this woman and it has now been his partner for 4 years.
Lovely.
But also, the internal, it's like that internal state, because of the outer, and that's what all shifted. So it did impact his business and his personal relationships,
Yeah,
both.
lovely.
hmm
Very
Yeah.
nice. And when people are making that shift, as they're going through a process of re-imaging themselves,
Mhm.
what's part of that? Because I mean, you could put on a whole new wardrobe on somebody and maybe it's not them, right? So
Yeah.
how do they hone in into their identity and who the next level of themselves and
Mhm.
how do they choose that? Like any suggestions for the listeners?
Yeah, I'll share my process and see if,
Okay, perfect.
take
Yes.
some tips from this. So the first step is I do have like a consultation with them. So we go into a deep dive. So once
Hmm.
somebody decides to work with me, we go deeper. I really ask a lot of questions about who do they see themselves as, and there's a lot of like internal things that they are thinking about. So the questions really gear to that, so that I can see like who is it that, and I get the visual right because I'm
Hmm.
creating it for them, and I
Right.
want to make sure
Mm.
it's a match. So we
Right.
spend time working on that. Then the next step is I actually create a whole vision board, like I was talking about, style vision board. And then
Mm.
from that vision board, I create what I call the blueprint. And our blueprint is really our roadmap to what styles, what colors, what fits, what brands are going to make you, your new you, come to life, right? And that goes in the blueprint. So it's pretty, it's a pretty in-depth blueprint. Then once we decide, yeah, this is me, this is what the direction we're going in, kind of like if you hired an interior designer to redecorate
Mm.
your home, they would wanna know your personality and
Right.
what makes you tick and what kind of lifestyle, and then they design this beautiful, mood board. It's the same thing. I'm just doing it with
Mm.
your personal style. Then we say, "Yep, this is it." I curate a whole day, really an afternoon, where I'm choosing the stores, I'm choosing the looks and what items we need to create your, little capsule wardrobe, and then we go and shop it. So we spend the day together and we shop in New York City, and we're basically finding the items that are perfect for you. And
Mm.
that's when we get to try things on and see, oh, wow, yeah, this feels good. Like I get to see the shift right there. And then I put the outfits together, I style them for them. So they have it all done in like this really cool app that I use. So they have a
Oh,
digital
fun.
lookbook. So that's like the process basically. And so that's how I know, that this like look that we're creating is really a fit for them. We're never
Right.
even gonna get as far to the store if it's not. Like
Right.
we got to do that ahead of time. So we're on board at that stage, and then we just about finding it and having an amazing day where you get to play, and I'm your guide for the day. Mhm,
That's lovely.
mhm.
So question, do you have like avatars like, oh, this personality or that kind of style, like things like that?
I've thought about that many times, but really everybody's different. So
Mm.
it's I go back and forth about that. Like, I really don't. I have some guidance, I will say, if people want to kind of figure this out on their own, because I
Mm.
feel like if you don't do this or you don't know how to do it yourself, then I have some direction in that sense. But if they're doing it with me, we're really curating it to like the unique individual that they are. And so everybody's different, and not one single person that I've styled in 10 years has ever been the same. So it's not a cookie cutter service at all. But I do have some like guidance as far as like how you could kind of figure out if you really have zero, idea of a place
You know
to
what I would love to see, and I don't know,
Mhm.
hopefully I'm not crossing any lines with this, but like I'm getting a download. Like I see the
Okay.
adventurer, the
Yeah.
traveler,
Yeah.
the gamer, right? Like more
Yeah.
personal life as opposed to professional.
Yeah.
Like
Mhm.
the studious or intellectual, like just like
Mhm.
specific looks, right? And then of
Yep.
course you tailor it to the person, but like there's like a brand, like there's a type of
Yes.
person personality, more quiet,
Yes.
more outgoing, more bold, more quiet, more introverted, more extroverted. So I think
Mhm.
that all those things would play a role, and I see buckets, and I see columns of clothing for each one of those.
Mhm.
I don't know, just
Yeah,
a
they do
thought.
exist in the world. They do exist, like style archetypes for sure.
Right.
But I've wanted to go in depth about that, about creating my own as well, but I love those, titles. I think those are good to
Yeah,
explore.
that's just what came to me. I'm sure there's more.
Yeah.
There's
No,
more
yeah,
types of
definitely,
people.
like the romantic type and the yeah,
Right.
there's a lot of
Right.
but you're right, they do exist out there. I shouldn't say that somebody can't go and look for that, if they do a little research and Googling. Absolutely, and even there's YouTube videos. I just don't personally have too many set up, but it's something I've been thinking a lot about because you're right, it would be helpful for some guidance. Mhm, mhm.
Yeah, and also, like, and again, if this you could chuck it, right? If this doesn't make sense, but what's coming to me is like like a different arm to your business,
Yeah,
like something else. You could create like
yeah,
this whole guidance if people don't
yes.
want the whole full on
Right,
enchilada.
more like, you DIY, you
Hmm.
can download these things and kinda do it yourself type of thing. Yeah, I've definitely thought about that at this point, point. So I've been doing it for so long that
Yeah, because you
when
see
I've
so many
come to
patterns. I would
yeah,
imagine that you would see that.
mhm,
Very good. And then, of course, if they don't know what to do with that, like, okay, I'm the adventurer, but I have no idea what an adventurer looks like. Perfect, I'll help you. you know?
yes, yes, I love
Yeah.
that. Mhm,
Just a thought.
yeah.
Anywho, so I'm full of ideas. So, how would that play out for the romance, for the connection, for the relationship dynamics? How, now my energy is shifted. I'm more in my groove. I'm more myself. I'm connected to my higher self. I'm showing up better. I'm feeling better.
Mhm,
I'm getting in touch with all my stuff. I'm more alive. All my stuff. I'm more magnetic.
mhm.
So, what are some of the shifts that you have seen or that you could imagine would happen?
I do think that people like I said, it's an energetic shift, right? Because they start to feel different, and it impacts their energy. And I do think with relationships, that person feels more connected and more attracted to their partner again. It's kind of
Mm,
like it gives them that like reboot that they were looking for and they see them differently, right? And then they feel like there's this rekindling of sorts because that person's energy is different. I mean, rarely have I worked with somebody where we didn't, work on this, and at least in this process that I have honed in
yeah,
on,
yeah.
and they didn't shift their energy where they were just like, "Oh, okay, yeah, great. This is great. I'll just put on this new jacket or whatever." Where
Mhm.
I really want that energy shift to happen because that's where the magic is, right? Because they
Right.
become more magnetic and then it of course impacts their partner, right? Because they're like, "Wow, who are you? Where have you been?"
I love the language that you use right there. So rekindling
Mhm.
it's almost like I'm still here, like a refresher
Yeah,
version of me, or like the old version of me with with new sparks or something, right? As
yeah.
opposed to like this muted version that got lost in translation over
Mhm.
time. Like, oh, I'm
Yeah.
still here. Like, look at my new and improved version of me, next level.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
good. And that gets rekindled, that magnetism kind of comes alive a little bit.
Yes.
Beautiful.
I think
Okay.
we need that too because I mean, maybe you see this often, right? Where big relationships do lose their spark a little bit, even if the person or the people love each other.
Yep.
And it's just, you just get used to that person that you're with and it becomes super comfortable. And maybe we need that sometimes. Just that little, like little tweak that rekindles something, right? Even if there's really nothing wrong. It's more just like, wow,
Right.
you use a little igniting the spark a bit. Hmm.
I love that. I think that what happens a lot is that we get so involved in like life and the kids and the work and the business, blah 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 blah, right? And the doing of life that
Hmm.
we forget to be in our life. And so our energy gets a little muted, right? It becomes grinding as opposed to radiating.
Yes.
And it becomes more doing as opposed to being. And then something like this kind of sheds the cobwebs, and it's kind of like, okay, I could be radiant, right?
Yeah.
And in a new image
Hmm.
would capture the evolution of the person. Like, okay, when we met, we were here. Now I've been evolving over time, but maybe my look, my appearance hasn't kept up with myself, right? Like
Mm.
I've just been doing life and like I'm taking and beaten, or like my appearance is a little dull over time. It's gone dull, but now it's like, oh, let me remove the junk and like let me put a new outfit on, literally in this case, and it's like, oh, this represents the new version of me. How nice, and it's like an awakening kind of happening.
Yes, absolutely. I totally agree with that. So, yeah,
So
I think it's
good.
so great because it's also something fun to do.
Yeah.
Some other things that other methods or other ways to do that may not be as fun. So this is extra fun.
Right. That's interesting. I love that. This is a good gift. If people haven't bought gifts for partners yet,
Yeah.
or for Valentine's Day coming down the pike, like we start thinking about that stuff earlier around here.
Mhm.
Good gifts, good gifts. I love that so much. Now, what about connection with other family members, with other loved ones, with friends, and just in general, just honing in more on the connection piece of things.
Mm.
Any
Mhm.
thoughts?
Yeah, well, I definitely think people see that person differently. So typically what I hear from my clients is they're like, "Oh my gosh, I got all these compliments," right? And I always think like,
Mm.
"Okay, what's that about? Like what about a compliment makes somebody say, 'I'm getting all these compliments,'" right?
I
To me,
love that.
that
Yeah.
tells me that they love that there's recognition, that they are being recognized, like that they people are noticing them. They're
Mm.
noticing the shift, and that's really what people are reacting to, right? Because they're like, "Oh, wow," and it makes them feel good.
Yeah.
Like everybody
I'm
wants,
being seen in a good
"I'm
way,
being
not right.
seen."
Hmm.
Exactly. Like, and I think that's at the end of the day, who doesn't like a compliment? I mean, it makes
Right.
us feel good, right? And so I think that's really what it's about. So I do have a lot of people that say, "Oh my gosh, my business partner is like, who are you? Like, what's this new look?" Right? Or, friends, family. Now, I will say on the flip side, I've also heard, and I've seen it too, like sometimes, especially with men, that like their male friends sometimes are like make fun of them for
Mm.
this for the change. And
Mhm.
I've noticed this a lot and I'm like, what's that about?" And I guess it's like this like thing where I don't know,
Well, they're
male energy,
uncomfortable.
they're uncomfortable.
Right.
And so it's like a thing that they do to be like kind of make fun of the guy for working on this.
Yeah.
And, yeah, so and that's the unfortunate thing that happens sometimes, but I do think it makes them uncomfortable, like, "Oh, man, why are you showing up like this? Like, just
Right.
be your frumpy old self, like, you'd fit in
Right.
with us more," right?
Right.
But, and it's
But
so
that's a great point because I think
Mhm,
that happens with most changes, right?
mhm,
Like depends on the group that you belong to. And immature guys will have a tendency to do what you just described.
yes,
And anytime there's a change, going exclusive with a girl, getting married, having a baby, like all the guys who are not at the same level or who are immature, they would put down all those accomplishments and milestones, right?
yep,
Or like, oh, you're getting too big for your whatever, like whatever they do.
yes,
So,
mm,
but I could imagine that you have stuff in your arsenal, in your toolkit to prepare the guys for like you might get this from your friends, right?
yeah,
So just
yes.
so that they could deal with if they get crap.
Yeah, exactly. So because it is a big change sometimes,
Yeah,
Not sometimes the people it's more subtle, but a lot of times it is a pretty big change.
love.
They're like, "Whoa," but I think that, we have to be comfortable with that, those reactions too, not just the positive ones, but the ones that make you feel like, "Oh, wait a minute, should I have done this?"
Yeah,
Because everybody wants to fit in for sure. So,
yeah.
mhm,
That I'm thinking, as you said, that they might get a negative reaction. What came to me was like, I'm wondering if you experience that they're having resistance to the change as you're working together, like because like a
mhm.
big personality shift or going from like, okay, this is who I am today to like the next version of me, that's scary, like
Oh, yeah.
right? So
Mhm.
what have you seen around that, and how do you usually work with that?
I would say, because you said that, the truth is a lot of people decide not to work with me because of that.
Right, I bet.
It actually feels scary, and
Yeah.
even though they know I can help them go from here to here, they actually stop themselves from doing it.
Yeah,
And so we don't even get beyond the sales call sometimes because of that.
that's true. So once they sign up, they're already ready.
I
That's a
think
good
once they
point.
sign up, they're ready. It's the, ooh, that
Mm,
hesitation when they speak to me
yeah,
that, "Oh my gosh, this
yeah,
feels
that's too
scary.
much for me.
It's too much." and they actually stop themselves from
Mhm.
stepping in. What I always say is like, I'm gonna help you step to the next level. You're literally going to step into your new identity. It doesn't mean that it's not you. It's just another version of you, but you
The
have to
next
be
level of
ready
you.
because I'm gonna hold your hand through the process. But some people just go, no, I don't know if I'm ready for that yet. So that's what holds them back from saying yes and signing up to work with me, unfortunately.
Oh, I just got chills up and down, up and down, up and down. Totally. Like, I think that this goes beyond your service. I mean, this
Yeah.
happens all over the place, I would say
Oh,
that
yeah.
that
Mhm.
that's why not everybody's a gazillion millionaire, gazillionaire, right? And now that's why not everybody has the highest level of success in their life and in their romance and in their marriage and in their home. Like that's why people don't have their best lives
Yes.
because it's too much. Their image of themselves, like, no, I'm not the person who does all those things or who has all those things or who feels those things. I'm this person who's broken and hurt and shame, right? All the things. Like I can't, that's too much money or that's too, I don't know, too much luck, too much love, whatever,
Mm,
right? Too much attention.
mhm.
And people not stepping into what's the possibilities of the, like anything is possible, right? If people allow
Oh, yeah.
themselves, like definitely we hold
Absolutely.
ourselves back.
We
Oh.
definitely do. I mean, and I agree with you, and it's
Mm,
hard for me to see that because I've done so
yeah.
much work in personal development.
Mhm.
I've done leadership training. I mean, I've done a lot of stuff myself.
Yes,
So
good.
I am a person who sees what's possible and I can shift past it pretty quickly. But I remember the person that was not that before and
Mm.
how it was scary. And I'd be like, oh, I don't know if I could do that, or that feels scary to take that risk, and trust also
So
because
sure.
you got to trust me that I'm the
Mm.
right guide, that I'm going to be the person that's going to get you from here to there. That's also that too, because, I,
I think it's more ourselves than the person in front of us.
yeah,
Definitely, of course, there's an element of that, but I think there's more like people might not be ready. Like,
might not be ready.
yeah,
Hmm.
I mean, I could identify a few times in my life when like I was stepping into next level of things and I was like, oh, like wow,
Yeah.
like when we were like this house, it felt so huge,
Mm,
right? And then that's one time that I could remember when I did one of my websites. I was like, it was too fancy. I was like, I was telling the developer to make it like less, like it was felt so like big, right? Like
oh.
just if I'm trying to remember those are the two things that are coming to mind right now, but
Hmm.
like, this is too much. We had a fancy car, like, I felt embarrassed driving this fancy car down my street, like, "What?"
Hmm.
Right? Very interesting, and so,
Very
like, those are
specific.
all kinds of blueprints and programs and, like, all the things, right? So that we had to do our own work, so I could totally imagine, like, I can't wear this fancy blazer or this fancy dress or this fancy shoes, right? Like, that's not me. I could
Hmm.
totally see people getting their own way and not showing up that way,
Oh, yeah. Yep.
allowing this to happen. Oh my
Yeah,
goodness, yes.
absolutely.
Yeah, a little too much disclosure maybe on my end, but hey, that's why we're here. That's
That's
why
what
we're
we're
here.
here. Yes.
So good. Let's see what else. So as people are enjoying the holidays, any so I'm gonna be tricky with this question, okay? So see
Okay.
if it feels like too weird that we could redirect. How can they start bringing the new image of themselves into the holidays, into embracing the new year, and into considering possibly working with you or doing an image personal rebrand, personal refresh, whatever level they need to go. What are some things that they could start putting on? Like, well, what's the identity thing that they could start putting on now, right? Whether
Mhm.
it's practical or mindset, so that they could start getting towards a good place for the new year, and then do something more about this as we go, if they need it, if they want to.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. I mean, I would be thinking about how do you align with this? Because personal branding is very important. Okay. It doesn't matter who you are, what you do, what industry you work in. Every single one of us has a personal brand. That's first and foremost.
Yes,
Doesn't matter what you do for a living. Okay.
your brand could be frumpy.
Yeah, I mean, that could be it. But
Mhm.
everybody has a representation of themselves.
That's
It's
right.
who we are. It's our
Right.
values and all of that. So if we're thinking in that perspective, we have to start thinking like, well, what's the image part of our brand? Like
Yes.
how does that what is that? And
Mm.
we have to just think like Is it a hairstyle? Is it like a piece of clothing, a particular
Mhm.
clothing? Is it an accessory? Is it a color, right?
Mm,
That we could actually be putting on to match our branding. Is it a signature item, like a signature thing, that you could start to incorporate that would people notice you for that thing? Color, like I said, is kind of an easy one, but it
mhm,
could be something very specific. And it could be, like I said, your hair, it could be a bold lipstick. For men, it could be like a signature bow tie. I want to say that's just like something random, or a pocket square, or a color, or a pair of
mm.
shoes. Besides thinking about like your logo,
Right,
or
right, right.
your signature, like
Mm,
things like that are more, like part of your, branding in that sense. What about you as the brand? What about you as the face of your brand? What would you
100%.
do differently, even if it's one small tweak? What would that be? And those are literal like things that you could put on that I
Hmm,
was thinking about. Also, the mindset piece, I would think, who is it out there that you admire, that you
mm,
look up to, that's like doing what you want to do or is successful at that thing, right? Who is it and how do they show up in the world? What
nice.
about them do you like, are you drawn to? And then
You know
how do you
what?
define it for yourself?
I
Mhm.
love that. You know who's coming to mind?
Mhm.
What's the guy's name? The Apple guy.
Steve Jobs.
Steve Jobs. Like the
Yes.
brand was just black. Like just
Well,
like just
it's
wear the
simple.
simple.
Simple, and he did that because he didn't wanna think about m making that decision because he said,
Hmm.
"I'm making all these other decisions every day, so I'm just gonna wear this uniform," because
Right.
Mark Zuckerberg's the same, well, at least
Hmm.
now he actually is putting effort into his style and his how it matches his like, this brand identity that he's created.
Mm,
Very different if you've noticed him now, but for years, he just wore a t-shirt and, like,
right.
floppy jeans. But,
Mm,
people are starting to think about this piece as part of their brand because it matters. And you're right, people bring up that example all the time,
right.
but we remember it, don't we? So
Right, exactly. But so making a decision, what's
Mhm,
coming to mind also as a tip for the holidays and as people are thinking about the new year and how am I going to bring my new me, my new you to the new
mhm,
year, and is to think about, okay, so who how do I look? How do I see myself? How does
mhm,
people respond to me? Is this the person that I want to be? Am I being who I think I am or who I want to be?
mhm,
And if not, what's out of alignment? And how do my choices start reflecting who I think I am and who I want to become?
mhm.
Because sometimes we see ourselves a certain way, but we're being this way or acting this way or dressing this way or showing up this way. And it's like, oh, no, I'm
Yeah.
this. And then I want to go here, not this
Mhm.
and here. Right.
Yes.
So, okay, let's line up and start operating from that place with choice of words, behaviors,
Mhm,
habits, gifting, receiving gifts, giving the gift, the activities, the plans, the goals, and then the appearance, right? So, like all of the things. How do we start making choices to line up more with who we think we are, who we want to be, and to continue to evolve that to the best that we can, to our best self? And how do
mhm,
we carry that into the new year? And it might totally be, okay, maybe I do need to wear a hanky on my lapel or my
mhm.
jacket pocket or whatever. Maybe I need to, I have no idea. It's just wear the high heels in the house every day.
Yeah,
Um,
maybe it is like, "Okay, I'm gonna show up differently on Zoom because I
mhm,
can." And maybe I'm
right,
wearing shorts on the bottom. Like, how many clients tell me, "Oh, I just wear shorts on the bottom." I'm dressy on top, and I'm like, "Hey, as long as you feel good, that's what matters." So,
right.
if you notice that you're dressing very, laid back, relaxed, and sweats,
Mm,
and you notice that that is actually making you feel too comfortable and complacent and kind of relaxed, then maybe you need to shift what you wear because what I said earlier, it will shift your mood and your mindset.
I love
Um
it. Right, exactly,
Mhm,
exactly. So then coming up with like, what are the little shifts, like you said before? Like, what's the tiny little tweak that I could
mhm.
start doing in any of those things that I mentioned, and starting right now? And what are the commitments or intentions to carry into the new year?
Yes, and when I talk about image, it is more than clothing, as I mentioned earlier, but
Mhm.
also it's top to toe. It's your hair, it's
Mm.
smell. Like I just worked with a
Oh,
client.
yeah.
He came to New York City. He doesn't live here. He flew in. We did a VIP
Nice.
weekend, and we did everything from the hairstyle to the scent that he was going to start wearing. So
Oh,
is also more than clothing. It is like literally how you represent yourself. And what do
yes.
you want to leave people with? Like when you're not in the room or you leave the room, what are people remembering about you? That's a
I
really
love that.
hmm
Right. So it's not just the wardrobe, like let's pick a few outfits that
yeah.
represents who you're gonna be or your next level, but also does the hair match the look? Does the makeup match the look? Does the
Yeah.
scent match the look? Does like the accessories match the look, right? What kind of
Yeah.
bags do you carry? Like my husband just upgraded to a suit to a briefcase. It's like,
Nice.
okay, that's getting a little fancy.
Yeah.
Right? He was carrying backpacks and now he moved to a briefcase. It's like, okay, that's interesting. That's very different look.
Yes.
And so it's cute, right? So like all the little things.
Little things. Yeah. hmm
Yeah.
All of it. It's all of it. It's the details sometimes too, like that we may not think too much about, but that's the thing that like the person would remembered. You know what I mean? Like the fact that
Totally.
you look very scruffy, like if you wear a beard, could you
Yes.
trim it so it looks well groomed versus
Right. Yeah.
scraggly,
Hmm.
unmanaged facial hair? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I know this is
I
like,
do know what you're saying.
but it
Yes.
does make a difference because we are noticing and we're saying, why didn't that person just trim it a little bit better? And they would just look like they cared more, like they maintaining it and they put a little more time and effort into their appearance. That speaks volumes because it's the thing that people are thinking and not saying that we actually should be thinking more about.
You know what's really interesting? So I'm thinking a bunch of different things. Let's see. So that the thing that I want to comment on is, gosh, it's falling out of my head. Hang on. Too many thoughts.
Mhm,
Oh gosh, it fell out. It hopefully come back. So what another thought that I had was like I was getting my teeth done. I was getting some work done.
mhm, mhm.
And the assistant says to me, wow, your pores look so clean. What do you use to clean your face? How often do you get when do you get facials? What?
Isn't that interesting? Uh-huh.
And I usually like to say to people, and I say this particularly to my daughter, I say this, also my husband reinforces it, like in different, like it's part of like, like just do what you need to do. Like it doesn't matter, right?
Mhm.
But it does matter because people do notice. And oh, I remember what I was gonna say. So, and even if they don't consciously notice, unconsciously they notice. We register everything. So
Yeah.
your appearance is going to have an impact on me, whether I register that you're scruffy or not. Like, even if I say like, oh gosh, that guy's beard's gross, even if I don't say it, your scruffiness is
Mhm,
going to be disgusting to me at some level because I already know that I'm disgusted by that. But even if I didn't think about it right now, I'm automatically going to have,
mhm.
right? And I'm sure there's a gazillion other things that we pick up from people that we might not be 100% conscious of, but we're noticing anyway. We're registering, and it's influencing us in
Yes.
terms of how we view them, how much
Yes.
respect or whatever, right?
Mhm,
Attraction.
mhm.
Yes. But
Yes.
but but I love what you said that yes, the things that people are thinking about are the things that we should be thinking about.
Yeah.
That was so good.
It's the truth. It's really is because they
Wow.
think about it. We always, and this is what I want people to notice.
Yes.
People tell you the nice things. You
Right.
look great. Oh my God, did you lose weight? You look amazing. Oh, I love that color. They always say the nice things. They don't say the not nice things.
Right.
That's the thing that they're thinking. So if people stop
Right.
saying nice things to you, it might be a sign.
Oh no.
Right? I know. I'm just saying, just really think about it
How
because
interesting.
did they stop complimenting you? And just check in with yourself. Maybe there's something I could be doing differently, putting a little more effort. That's all. And that's you have to
I
change.
love that.
Yeah.
That is good feedback, right? So if I'm not getting as many compliments, maybe people are not finding things to compliment because people are going to pick up they're going to say the good things. They're not going to point out the bad things. But if they're not saying anything,
Yep.
oh,
Mhm.
I love that. Hmm. That's
Mhm.
great information, actually. That's terrific.
Mhm.
Wow. Okay. So anything else that people should be thinking about out or playing with or tweaking during the holidays and as the new year comes around so they could bring their new them to the new year?
Yeah, I mean, just it's okay. When we're entering a new year, we're always thinking about, oh my gosh, we have these new goals and we're all excited,
Mhm.
weight loss goals, or we have all these goals. But like, I want you to realize that the thing that I'm talking about today is something you could do that can happen like that. You
Mm.
literally could say, I want to have this look. I want to appear differently. I have this vision for myself. You can literally go and take action and the next day look completely different. And that would shift everything so fast. Losing weight takes time. Coaching and
Mm.
therapy does take time. Not saying don't do these things because I
Yeah,
do these things. I just mean
like
start something
immediate.
that you could do immediately that would help you shift your energy quick and then take the time to work on these other things. Because sometimes we just need that quick thing that helps us shift our identity, shifts our mood, shifts our energy, and then we can spend the time going in deeper or into these other types of ways. I believe in that because I do these things too.
That's awesome. So
Hmm.
two things that I want to offer around that, just so that people could receive that easier.
Hmm.
The takeaway is excellent. Just take action and you'll have an immediate effects, results, right? In case people can't take action and people are like, "Nah," right? And I don't know how, and I don't know what I would do, and whatever, all the things that hold people back. What I would offer is sit with yourself, go in, connect yourself, higher power, whatever your inclinations are, but definitely chill and don't be so external. Hone in, because from that place, check in, right? What would be the little action that I could take? What would
Hmm.
make me feel better? What is the little tweak that I could do? Is it a jacket or is it a dress? Is it a haircut or is it signing up for the gym? It doesn't even have to be like start like the crazy workout routine. Just like one little step, one little action that you could start taking. And that tiny behavior can invite other behaviors, other things that you could start kind of getting this ball rolling so you could embrace more and more of the shift that you want to create.
Mhm.
Right?
Yes.
Yes, very, very nice. You said immediate change. Yeah. So something that I like to say to people all the time is, and this is when we're in couples therapy and we're like in the middle of things. And sometimes what comes up is that we are our own creations.
Mm.
Right? So this is totally that's what you're saying. Like you could just change your whole look like this. Yeah. Right. So I'm choosing to do my hair like this. I chose this color lipstick on purpose because I wanted to look good for the holidays and more it's brighter than I usually wear. I chose this red nail polish on purpose for this, right? So like these are choices. I didn't have to look like this today. I could look completely different. But we create ourselves, right?
Mm.
We day in and day out. How much do I weigh? How fit I am? What hair color I have? What, like what how thick my eyebrows are or not, or I don't know, whatever, all the things, right? Whether we have facial hair or not, if you're a guy, like we are choosing our look day in and day out, how groomed we are, how not groomed we are, like our sizes, right? So my
Mhm.
husband's very tall. So I choose to wear a wedge, simple shoe in the house so I feel taller. Right. So I'm actually bigger. And when I wear a plus, my husband's like, what happened? It's very obvious, right? Because like the discrepancy in height is pretty significant.
Mm.
And but I feels more in alignment. So that's part of my creation. I'm actually a taller person. I made myself taller.
Wow, that's interesting. Wow.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And even the way I experience at home when I wear flats or flip-flops,
Mhm.
right? So I'm at a certain level with the tables and the counters and stuff in my eyesight. But when I wear the little wedge, and it's not the huge wedge,
Mhm.
but I'm like 2 or 3 inches higher. I don't know, that's
Mhm.
what is that, 2 inches?
Yep.
Huge. I'm like experiencing it at home at a different eye level, right?
Yep.
And when I used to go into the office, I had even higher heels. That was a different experience. And when I wore flatter shoes, it felt different. Like your
Mhm.
experience of the world at different eye levels, right?
Mhm.
That's part of our co-creation.
Yep.
That's just a tiny little thing, right?
Yep.
But everything about us is created. Everything about us is a habit.
Mhm.
Our thoughts, our feelings, our behaviors, and what we choose to wear, right? Everything, how we choose to react and think and feel and all the things, and how much we hold ourselves back.
Yep. So true.
So we
100%.
could create whatever we want
Yes. That's the
immediately.
coolest thing. I mean, you can literally just get behind the driver's seat of your own image. That's why I literally say, just get in a driver's seat and say, I want to feel different. I want to look different. I want to dress different.
Yep.
Everything is your choice. I love that. Hmm.
Yes. I
Hmm.
love it. So we get it. We get it.
Yes.
Very good. So last parting words of wisdom that you want to share with our audience.
Oh, what could I say? I mean, I really think it is that just knowing that you get to be in the driver's seat.
Mm-hmm.
So take a step back and really think about, am I showing up as my best self? What's something I could do differently or do I want to do differently? I mean, if you're happy with it, that's awesome, but if you're not, then and you're feeling like, wow, I could do better. Well, just really look at that and think what could I do better? And what would that look like to me? And
Mm-hmm.
you get to be in the driver's seat. You get to be in control because let me tell you, you don't want other people to control it for you.
Right.
You
Right.
you control your image. So if you're
Yes.
not showing up in the best way, guess what? That leaves it to the other person to think XYZ. But if you're saying, "Hey, I'm intentionally putting
Mhm.
myself out there like this," then that's the way you want to be interpreted and you're in control.
That's
So
right.
I always say, why not? Why would you not want to be? It's your image, it's your brand,
Right. Right.
and this is how we have to be now. We live in a world where it matters.
Yeah.
The
They
truth.
can like what's the imprint? What's the impression that you want to what's the
Yeah.
impact? What's the magnetism? Like what do you want to put out,
Mhm.
right? To get and to help you create
Mhm.
everything that you want to create and enjoy and have in life. So
Absolutely.
good.
Yes. Mhm.
Perfect. Beautiful. Well, Tavia, this has been a fabulous conversation. So fun. One of the funnest ones.
Oh,
This
good.
is a
Yeah,
beautiful, fun topic. I love it. And I'm all about shifting identities. And this is totally a compliment to that. So I love it.
good. Me too.
And so fun speaking with you. Thank you so much for coming
Thank you
today.
so much for having me today.
My
Yes.
pleasure. And to the listeners, I will see you at the next one. Bye.